So how do you know it's time to prune your Russian sage? Well, if you see your plant and it's putting out growth just like this right here, that is a sure sign that it is time to go ahead and get them pruned. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey everybody, I'm Dave with Growing Home Garden. I'm out here today with my Russian sage plants that are in the front garden. I planted these last year as little 3-inch pots, and they did very well. They did a great job of growing, and they looked amazing, attracted a lot of pollinators into the area, which was part of my goal. I just love Russian sage for those reasons. Now it is time to get this cut back so it can do that again this spring. And one of the first things you're going to look for is signs of growth at the little nodes. And so we're going to take a look at those. We're going to go through pruning the plant, getting it all nice and shaped up, and we'll just talk about some of the things related to pruning Russian sage today. Now, pruning Russian sage is very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to come into the plant and we're going to look just above where the new growth is starting, and we're going to give it a little snip cut right there just above it. So we're going to prune back all the way till we see that new growth. Generally, you want to prune back to about 6 to 8 inches tall, but if it's okay if it's a little bit taller. I like to leave whatever growth is starting to come out so that it can go ahead and do its own thing this year and grow and be just a really nice looking plant. So we're going to cut all the way back on there, and you want to try to leave an angle cut when you're cutting. That way water will run off the top of the cut wound area and not introduce any kind of a rot. So we're just basically going to keep that on up until we get it all nice and shaped up. Russian sage flowers on new growth, so by pruning right now it's perfectly okay and you're not going to lose any blooms. In fact, you'll probably get more of them. Now if you get to a branch and the branch does not have any new growth on it, but it's still a live branch, just go ahead and cut it to about 8 inches tall. 6 to 8 inches tall would be fine, and make sure that you're cutting it with that angle cut. And if you pay attention to the nodes that you have on that cut, those branch nodes are going to point in whichever direction they are pointing in. So that's where your branches are going to grow. So this one will come out this way, this other one will come out the other way. And you can kind of shape up your plant just based on that direction for those nodes. So I've got the first one just about done here. I've got some little spindly growth. I'm just going to trim those back. They're pretty inconsequential at the moment, but they will grow. So now that I've got that one about done, I'm going to go back to the back two. I've got this planted in a triangle with 3 here, and when they're all full of foliage and blooms, they kind of make it look like a big, one singular big plant here, which looks really, really nice. I love it. But let me go on and get to these back two. Now I've always found Russian sage is a very easy to grow plant, and it makes a really great substitute for a plant like lavender, which might be a little bit more finicky depending upon where you grow it. The only caveat to that is that Russian sage really does like it kind of on the dry side. So you want to have good drainage. You don't want to have a lot of competition from weeds and stuff around it, so make sure that you're keeping it nice and clean around the area. And otherwise, it's going to do really well for you. The greatest thing about this plant is that I have never in years of growing it had deer or rabbits chew on this or gnaw on it or anything. It just kind of repels them, I think. So it is a great plant to keep in mind if you have deer problems, rabbit problems, pest issues and stuff like that. The leaves are highly fragrant, which I think is what the main reason is that they do not bother them. So as you can see, I've got quite a bit of clippings right here. If you want to use this as a mulch to put under some plants for a little while, that would be great, especially things that you need some repellent naturally for deer. But for right now, I'm just going to put this into this old pot that I use for moving compost and stuff around and clean up the area real good. So there's 3 main reasons why you should prune your Russian sage. Number 1, every time you've got one of these little nodes here where you've got the leaves forming, are 2 more branches that are going to come off of that point. It will make a much bushier and better looking specimen plant when you do that pruning. Number 2, it keeps it a little bit more compact so it doesn't go all rangy. If you had a plant that was just sprawling out this way, every node along the way would start to put out branches and flowers and stuff, and it would just get very large. So it keeps it a little bit more compact. And number 3, you want to make sure that there's plenty of good airflow around the plant. Keep it compact, keep it tidy, keep it neat in the area, just so things look great. So if you're not sure when to prune your Russian sage for the year, just look for the leaves. Look for those tiny little leaves to start on the branches, and that will be your sign. Today is March 14th when I'm filming this right now, and the weather has been warming up. We've had 70-degree temperatures, which has really spurred on some growth. We very well could still have some frost between now and April, the end of April sometime, so we do have to pay attention. If we get a lot of new growth on these plants, we're probably going to end up having to cover. But that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes in gardening. So I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. If this was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.